So the CEO of Redfin, then who was on episode 1261, great guest. Glenn Cleelman has been on this program, friend of the pod. He's been on a half dozen times. He is awesome. He spoke with the New York Times and warned about the dangers of pouring money into homes. Quote, without having a clear idea of how you're going to make money on almost every single home, if that happens, he said, you're just putting the housing markets, the capital markets at some degree of risk. And this is the criticism of Zillow, was like, we're in a housing crisis. For some giant company to start taking homes off the market, same criticism of Opendoor. It was like these iBuyers are exacerbating the housing crunch. So I think that might be a little bit of it too. Maybe Zillow realizes this is a tough business and you become hated. Maybe regulations will come, like the government will intervene because of it. So according to Bloomberg's reporting, Zillow is looking to sell about 7,000 homes to other institutional investors to get them off their books. Again, the number of those 7,000 homes is 2.8 billion. Zillow's current market cap is 21 billion. That's down 50% from their peak valuation of 48 billion in February of 2021. So Zillow has lost half of its value. Wow. In a year. And no, I'm sorry. They've lost half their value since February of this past year in 6 months. Wow. According to research firm Yipit Data, I've never heard of that firm, Zillow put a record number of homes on the market back in September, but it appears they are not being sold at a profit. According to a study of 650 Zillow-owned homes done by KeyBank Capital Markets, 2/3 were priced for less than the company bought them for. So Zillow is going to take a big write-off here. Obviously, this is a huge mistake, a blunder. But what I will say is, no risk, no reward. So while it's easy to kick Zillow when they're down here, they took a bold bet. What if it paid off? And it's a minor charge for a company that's worth $21 billion to take a $500 million or $1 billion charge. I would rather see a company taking big, bold bets like this than not taking them. You got to take bets in business. You got to keep shooting for growth. And so Zillow did pause buying before all this back in March 23 and 2020. When the COVID stay-at orders kicked off, they quickly sold off as well. So I think that this is a great learning experience, period. End of story. And good on Zillow for trying. And maybe they just think their other model, or they have another concept they want to iterate on. But, you know, they bought houses for $400K and on average, if you take the 2.8 billion and divide it by 7,000, that's the mean, not the median. So I don't know what the most common home price is, but it looks like they bought first-time buyer homes, starter homes, which is smart because that's what the world needs more of. But it's hard to do everything, and boiling the ocean is hard. I think maybe Opendoor, since they only do one thing, maybe they'll be successful at this where Zillow had a harder time with it. Also, I think maybe Zillow looked at their existing business model and maybe they were pissing off real estate brokers, right? Maybe this was creating too much tension of them being the owner and seller, because if they're the seller, well, then they're fighting against other sellers in the market. So let's think this through in a gamesmanship theory or game theory, which I'm not an expert on. But if you're the agent representing a home and you are a seller's agent, you are selling to Zillow, which means when they sell it, because they're flipping it, you don't get the chance to represent that home again. So every time you sell a home to Zillow, by definition, you're removing a piece of inventory, where you sell it to any iBuyer. You remove a piece of inventory that you'll be able to represent in the future. And many times, I think you've probably seen this, a real estate broker will represent the same home 2 or 3 times. I know when we bought our home, one of our homes, we then tried to sell it with one agent. It didn't sell. And then we went back to the agent and said to the agent who sold it to us, hey, you sold this home before. You know the home. Would you like to sell it again? And so I think that that's a strategy that would then make selling agents not want to work with Zillow. So then maybe the selling agents were trying to offload bad inventory to Zillow to sink them. It's kind of like a very clubby thing, these real estate brokers. I think everybody knows when you are in the process of selling a home, the brokers in many cases are working with each other. Some might say colluding, others might say facilitating. It could be just facilitating most of the time and sometimes colluding to try and get the buyer and seller to just, do a transaction by any means necessary. Because remember, the incentive is to close any transaction. It doesn't matter what the price is. You just got to sell it. The price doesn't matter, right? If they sell a home if there's 6%, if you sell the home for $1 million, you make 60. If you sell it for 900 or you sell it for 900 or 1.1, which is a 20% swing in prices there, it doesn't really affect their commission. It's still going to be plus or minus 10% of 60,000. It'd be 54 to 66,000, right? So it doesn't really matter. The commission of 54 to 66 being split two ways doesn't matter. Any number in there is good. Okay. And, some of you might know who are listening to the podcast that every day or 4 days a week, I record these newscasts live. And I just got in a great question from one of the Noti Gang members. And the Noti Gang member, Jeff, says, JCal, do you think iBuy is a fundamentally unworkable idea, or did they not just execute well? I'd say it's the latter. I think it is a hard business. It's an operational business to be in, and you have to be relentlessly focused, making sure every single home is a tier 1, top tier home, not a home that is a dog. And Keith Raboy had a note about this just recently, saying selling or shorting Opendoor due to Zillow's flaws and is akin to shorting Google due to Yahoo's inability to monetize search well or return long-tail queries properly. And I think he's probably correct. If you look, Yahoo was doing 20 different projects and search was one of them. And Google was doing one project, search, and they were just 100 times better than, or maybe 10 times better than anybody in the market at that time. Maybe they're 20 times better now. So focus matters in startups. And this seems to be like food delivery or Airbnb, an operationally intensive business. And in operationally intensive businesses, ones that exist in the real world, you just got to have a really sharp blade. You cannot be fighting 5 wars on 5 fronts in this kind of a situation. You just got to do one thing better than anybody. So I would be long Opendoor. And actually, I'd be, for doing iBuying, and I would be long Zillow for getting back to their original model and just owning that one. So lick your wounds. You get knocked down 6 times, you get up 7. Zillow will be fine. And that's my way of trying to get the founder and CEO to come back on the podcast, which probably won't happen. We love you, Rich. Come on the pod. Everybody do me a favor who's listening. If you know Rich, tell him to come on the pod. He's got so many great startups that he's done, and he's friends with like 10 of my friends, Bill Gurley, everybody. Come on the pod. I'm not going to bite. Right now, LinkedIn is going to give you $100 credit towards your first ad campaign. All you have to do is go to linkedin.com/thisweekinstartups. One word, no spaces, no dashes. We all know why you want that $100. Because you need high quality leads for your startup, for your business. Every startup founder, every marketer has been there before. You're launching some new campaign. The creative's amazing. Your team is excited. Everything is going according to plan. Except you got that thought in the back of your head. It's keeping you up at night. How can I be sure that my acquisition campaign is going to drive the high impact leads that my sales team needs? They got to hit their targets. They need the leads. Well, with LinkedIn ads, you don't need to guess because you're going to be able to advertise on LinkedIn where your message reaches people who are ready to engage in business. LinkedIn equals business. Business equals LinkedIn. Business LinkedIn, same thing in people's minds. With 30 million companies engaging and over 71% of professionals using LinkedIn to inform their business decisions, LinkedIn can help you bring the growth at your company to the next level. Don't wait to start achieving your brand and lead gen goals. Get $100 $100 in ad credits towards your first LinkedIn campaign at linkedin.com/thisweekinstartups. Once again, that's linkedin.com/thisweekinstartups for the $100. Terms and conditions, of course, apply.